Got it.
Jimmy, can I offer one addition to your introduction process? If everyone could open the chat and write your name in the chat, then we'll have a list of ordered names and you can introduce yourself when it's your turn. Just sort of introduce yourself as your turn comes up because everybody's name's in the chat. So everybody just writes their name. Oh, I just did that to just Deb. I have to write it to everybody. Make sure it's set to everyone. And so if everybody just starts putting their names in, then we can follow that order. So I'll start. I'm Marina, and I've been a member of Mindful Hawaii for a while. I help with the Mindful Navigators Project, and it's really nice to be with you. And so the next person behind me on the list is
Sue.
Hey, Sue.
I'm Sue from Waikiki, and I've been out of touch with you guys for quite some time, so I'm glad to be back.
I'm Helen. I live in Kaimuki, and it's wonderful to be back. I missed the last time, but it's nice to be back again this time.
Good to see you, Helen.
Yeah.
Deb, you're next.
I was just figuring that out. Sorry. I'm Deb Marwa. And I'm in Maui. On Maui.
All right. Maui.
Yeah.
Aaron, who's Aaron?
I am Aaron Terry, and I'm currently living in.
Hey, Aaron. Long time no see.
Yeah. Like, so it's been a while, but it's good to be back and see people here that I haven't seen in quite a while. So thank you. Yeah.
Are you still doing the Kalakaua project?
Yeah, so I'm still working there, and we're all learning. Yeah.
Good. One day you can tell us about it. Okay?
Okay.
Aloha everyone, my name is Carolyn Oka. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii.
All right. Welcome aboard, Carolyn.
Aloha, I'm Corinne from Kailua, and I was at your beginning, your kickoff meeting at Dean and Janine's, and then I've missed the next two, so I'm glad to reconnect with you.
Oh, nice to see you back, Corinne.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm also in Kailua and volunteering with some of the new stuff going on at Mindful Hawaii, which is a lot of fun to interact with all of you. It's nice to see you today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex. This is my first meeting. Jenny invited me. I'm really excited to get to know you guys.
Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thank you.
I'm Greg Ewan. I'm in Honolulu, and I am here representing Katog Mighty Ling. It's a Tibetan Buddhist group, and good to be with you all.
Thank you. Arlene, I think we already met her. Did we meet Arlene?
Well, I can say hi real quick. This is Arlene Garcia Herbst. I live in Manoa, and I've been a Mindful Hawaii member for maybe a couple years now. And I help the group with all the digital media stuff, the website, the newsletter, all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Aloha kako. Wonderful to see everyone. I'm Melanie Melakea. I live in Kahaluu. I'm editor of the newsletter. Thank you.
Thank you for working hard. Richard?
Yes, thank you, Jimmy. I'm Richard Hennessy. I've been with Mindful Hawaii for 6 years, and it's good to see everybody here today. And I don't know if did I say I live in Honolulu? I live in Honolulu, and I'm looking forward to Susan's talk on forgiveness today. Thank you.
Yeah, Susan, can you hold your intro? We're going to introduce you soon. Anybody else out there?
Hi, Jimmy.
Hey,
Roger
hey, I
Epstein.
haven't seen you for a long time.
I know. I live in Honolulu, Roger Epstein, and I was with you at the beginning, Jimmy, of the Mindfulness Hawaii. I don't know how many years ago that is, and I guess nominally I'm still the chairman of the Interfaith Committee, and I'm
Yes.
very interested to hear Susan's presentation today. For about 15 or 20 years, we ran the Hawaii Forgiveness Project out of my law office downtown. So I know Fred Luskin well, and I know Susan well, and I'm really looking forward to today's program, and glad that I'm back. I haven't been connected with you guys for months and months now.
I was wondering about where you were. Thought you were on the mainland traveling.
I've been traveling a lot. My oldest daughter had my first grandbaby in Washington, D.C., so I've been going back there for months at a time.
Okay.
But I'm here now, and it's great to see you and everyone.
Well, just a heads up to you, and I think Richard too, that next year early sometime I'll be calling a board meeting, and you guys, going to have to come and be part of the board meeting.
Okay, happy to be there. And if I'm here, I'll come live if you're doing it live. And if not, I'll Zoom.
Okay, good to hear that.
That's
Hey,
good.
Jimmy, there are three
Anybody
more,
else out there?
Jimmy, there are three more people. I think Peggy, Bev, and Marion haven't introduced themselves. I don't know that we missed anybody else.
Peggy, are you there?
Jimmy, why are you, what, can we deal with, is there feedback for people? Are people hearing feedback? What's that about? Why is that happening?
I'm hearing feedback.
Everybody is supposed to be muted, right, except the person speaking?
Let's see if that helps it, everybody. And that includes you. I don't know, Jimmy, maybe you can try to stay muted, but when somebody else is talking, maybe we have to do that. But Peggy, then Bev, then Marion, if we can go in that order. And I don't think there's anybody else that we missed.
Okay, hi, I'm Peggy Perkinson. I just recently stepped off of being director of the Center on Aging at University of Hawaii. I'm still in St. Louis right now, and for the past week, I've been attending the American Anthropological Association conference, so that's why I was a little bit late tonight, because it's still going on.
Peggy, when you come back, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, just getting through my mail.
I know, but
yeah,
when do you anticipate being back?
I don't know. I'm here for various health reasons, and I just can't get the appointments that I need. So I may come back and then just go back to St. Louis. I've got one scheduled for March. So I may be coming back pretty
But
soon.
we look forward to your return and your full involvement with whatever we're doing. And we have talked about working on aging, spiritual aging. So I think that's an area that we would like to work with you on. Okay,
yeah, that'd be good. Great.
Who's the next person? Peggy.
I think I'm Bev Smith.
Oh, hi, Bev.
Hi. Glad to see everybody. I'm from Honolulu.
All right. Manoa, right?
Yes.
Okay. Glad you joined us.
And I'm Marion, and I'm sorry I'm late. I'm on grandson duty.
Lazaro, good to see you.
Yeah.
When's your next play coming up?
Good to be here. Late January, early February. Hopefully the first in-person play at UH. I'm happy to be wearing this shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddie Wengo, eh?
Yes. So keeping our fingers crossed that it'll be in person, and if not, it'll be live streamed. But hopefully in person. The puppets are amazing.
Yeah. So how was your trip to Brazil?
It was pretty amazing. It was short and sweet, but a very long travel time. But it was just good to see the grandsons down there and see what they're up to, and visit my son and his daughter-in-law. So.
Okay. Is that your actor son that's living in Brazil?
This is the actor's son who just was filming in New Mexico with Jessica Alba, a film coming out on Netflix called Trigger Warning. It's a post-production action film, not my favorite genre, but my son's in it, so I go to them.
But anyway, when your play is about to come online, let us know so we can let everybody know that it's going to happen. Okay.
Sure, I'll do that. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Aloha.
Jimmy, I think that's everybody. Did we get everybody?
Okay, so let me cover some quick items and then we'll get to Susan. I know she's anxious to go, right, Susan? Well, anyway, just to give you a heads up that traditionally, Mindful Hawaii does not have a community meeting in December to allow ourselves to enjoy the holiday season. So just keep that in mind. And we'll put a note out later on about not having a meeting in December. And the session 3 of the Wisdom Seat in December, is there going to be, do you know what day is that, Marina?
It's the first Wednesday of every month for 9 months, and we are at month 3. And you're welcome to join us and you can go to the Mindful Hawaii website, and maybe we can try to drop a link in here if I can do 2 things at the same time. That would help you if you weren't there. We're studying Shambhala, Way of the Warrior by Shogam Trungpa Rinpoche, for those of you that don't know. And I think so we're using the Wisdom Seat, which is a number of his students who have formed a group and have been sharing that work. And they had recorded a training program that a few of us had participated in when they led it with 500 or so people who attended. It was the first time offering. So we're doing it again. And we've allowed us to use their recording. So we have their teachers. So they were his students. And it's really because the concept of warriorship was something we decided that we liked here for Mindful Hawaii. And we're using some of his writings to help understand a shared frame of reference around warriorship. And so anyone who's interested in joining us for that exploration is most welcome. And information about it is available on the website. And as I said, so Jenny managed to do that while I was talking. So if you're interested in signing up for it, feel free. It's from 6:30 to 8:30, 2 hours. And each night we have like 2 or 3 chapters that we're reading in a rather small book. And we'll do that over about 9 months. No end in June.
I just want to put a commercial plug in for the Wisdom Seat. I've sat through 2 sessions, and I have to say that it's really full of great insights. So if you want, I recommend that you take the time and maybe drop in and see for yourself what it's about. Okay. Now, I want to get to Susan. So our focus today is forgiveness. It's a powerful act that can change lives for the better. Our guest today is Susan Ford, spelled F-O-A-R-D, not F-O-R-D, who is a mindful forgiveness group facilitator. The program she trained for and uses was created by Dr. Fred Luskin, co-founder and director of the Stanford University Forgiveness Project. Dr. Fred Luskin authored this book. Do I have the book? Yeah, I have the book. Can you see the book? Oh, there we go. Forgive for Good. It's a great book. And if I would recommend that you get a copy and really go through it. It's really informative, and there's a lot of scientific foundation for the behind the idea of the practice of forgiveness. So you should really get into it. Now, Susan retired in 2018 and is grateful for a 39 years of experience assisting individuals with disabilities to attain independence. She has a master's degree in educational psychology, is a licensed mental health counselor, and is a NIA. And she's going to have to explain this throughout at part of the day, what is Nia martial arts all about? And she's a black belt practitioner in that. So without any further ado, I'm going to call on Susan to get going, you know, and make us all forgiving people. Susan?
Thank you so much, Jimmy. And you know, I feel like I've known Jimmy for a long time. The truth is, I just met Jimmy 3 months ago. I mean, 3 weeks ago, really. You know, and those 3 weeks have just been a whirlwind. And I am just so impressed with this group. I'm sure that, you know, a lot of you have your own mindful practices much greater than mine. But we're here to share today. And I'm really pleased and honored to be here and to share what I've learned from the Stanford Forgiveness Project. So I hope today is going to be kind of interactive. You know, I'm more of a storyteller because I want to share my experiences. But let me start with the research. Dr. Luskin put together this program 25 years ago. And he talks about, when he talked about forgiveness, everybody kind of laughed at him. What is that? What is that? He's done a lot of research since then. But the groups he has worked with has been worldwide and in various communities. And I want to say his research was difficult in the sense that the practice itself is a teachable skill. It's learned, and it takes about 12 hours to begin with. And so when he was doing his research, it was very time consuming, but he did take the time. The first batch that he worked with was for 259 participants. And the methodology took him to teach the skills anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. The current practice is 12 hours, and we teach that in 6 weeks, 2 hours per week. So you can see how time intensive that was. He also worked in small groups. And small groups, it was because he worked with the Sierra Leone and the Northern Ireland survivors. And there weren't that many of it because he wanted to figure out for grief. And these were parents of persons who had their children murdered a long time ago. And he wanted to see if their grief, which still was present in 2000, to see if they were able, using his methodology, to get past this grief. And so the results that he saw was that not only were they able to lessen the pain, lessen the grief, but then he saw the increase in emotional well-being, meaning heart health. And I want to show you this picture that was just so meaningful to me. When I say heart health, I'm really a picture person. So if you can see this, a healthy heart and an unhealthy heart. See, I always knew that, you know, they say if you give up smoking, your lungs regenerate. I didn't really know that when you choose forgiveness, your heart can actually regenerate. Your blood pressure goes down, your stress decreases, and your optimism increases, and you've got more physical and peaceful vitality. One of the interesting studies that I was reading about his research was he also not only worked with persons that had grief, but he also worked with financial services. And he did the practice on 104 of their employees. And after his practice, they also increased in positivity. But the big thing is that they doubled their sales productivity by 24%. 24%. And so my story begins, and how I got involved with this was back in 2017, a man named Merton Chinen, who was the executive director of Office of Youth Services. He and I participated in administrative meetings for the entire department. Okay, and Department of Human Services is the second largest department in the state, next to the Department of Education. And at one of these meetings, he stood up and he said, you know, Dr. Luskin is coming to town, and I would like for one of us to be a representative for DHS and go to this training. And it was 6 hours. And so, of course, you know, I was ready to retire in a year and a half. So I just kind of put my head down. And when I looked up, the director of human services pointed me and said, you go. It's you, Susan. And I thought to myself, okay, I've had 39 years of counseling. I don't need another methodology at this point in my life. But of course, I'm not going to say that in front of everybody. And I said, of course, Pankaj, I will be love to go. And he says, well, it's tomorrow. And I said, okay. I rearranged all my appointments because I was acting administrator of the whole division at that time. And then I drove to the training, and it was at a church. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? The day that I stepped into it with about 100 other practitioners in the field of social work, counseling, mental health, and others, changed my life. And for me, being an individual who had an ischemic stroke, I want to say 6 years now, being a healthy person that I thought it was physically, I ran my first and last marathon at age 65, came in 5 hours and 48 minutes. For me, that was just wonderful that I even finished. And at age 68, I earned my black belt in NIA. Because I know that I'm speaking to the choir because all of you have a mindful practice and really understand the importance of calming down and breathing properly. Now, that's one of the keystones in this practice. Because when you do so, when we talk about physical vitality, we all know the steps because we've heard it so many times. Susan, lower your stress. Oh, forget about that. Don't sweat the small stuff. Oh, go take a walk around the block. Come back. It's not worth worrying about. We all know that. But until you embed it within yourself, you don't know the miracles that, will come forth. And I can tell you this for a fact, when I rode with Jimmy for half an hour or 1 hour from my house to Kaimuki Intermediate to Olelo, he talked about all the miracles that has come to him. That man is remarkable. But anyway, it does. Every part of my life has changed. And this is not only for your work life, it's for your home life. And we all know, And we've all heard, oh, you know, Susan, if you're drowning, you know, you just got to relax. Don't fight it. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you do that? Right? Oh, when you get a shot, oh, Susan, you know, relax your arm. Don't tense up because it's going to hurt more. Right? And we know all these things, but yet I say it, I hear it up here, but I didn't see it in practice. So all of you are way ahead of the game if you have a mindful practice, and we'll talk a little bit about that and how it affects every point in your life. And so I started on my journey, and I was very fortunate at that point. And this was a big surprise. 2 months before I was to retire, the department head of DHS came to me and said, Susan, you drop your work today. You take your last 2 months and you embed forgiveness into DHS. And that day, I thought to myself, okay. I looked up above, and Merton Chinen's office is right above. I knew he had an empty desk, so I packed up my things and I moved upstairs, I want to say within 4 hours. The greatest gift that I had. So what is this practice? Like I said, the skills, it's a teachable skill. It's non-secular. I'm sorry, I wear Invisalign, so I have sometimes a hard time stumbling on it. So what is it? So I'm thinking that I'm not going to spend this whole time talking, and hopefully this is interactive. So let's start about what is forgiveness. That word is so loaded. Once I got to starting in the practice, people said, oh, Susan, don't worry, I forgive. And they were starting to call me Mrs. Forgiveness as I walked down the halls because I talked about it all the time. Merton and I started embedding it by doing 1-hour presentations to people, to counselors, to psychologists, to doctors who already had their practice, but came to learn what it was. But they had their own definitions. So Jim, if you don't mind, I'd like to open it up and ask everyone, there is no wrong answers in any of this. So what is your definition of forgiveness? Because that is the forgiveness that Stanford uses. We need to understand what it means by forgiveness. But it would help me with my presentation if I know a little bit about you and what your definition of forgiveness is. And it doesn't have to be in scientific or anything like that. So is it possible for us to open it up to everyone and just share?
Sure, we can open it up. Susan, that was a gripping tale you told. So thank you for that. And folks should feel free to type their thoughts into the chat if they want to do it that way, or raise your physical hand or use your reaction button to put your hand up so we can let people into the conversation since we can only talk one at a time. So I see Helen, as if it's okay with you guys if I facilitate this, I will. Helen.
Hi, this is a great topic. I guess I think of forgiveness is that capacity to let go of any outcome, any expectation of change, or any outcome that's defined by me, that it means really getting as close as I can experience to surrender, not to manage someone else's behavior.
Thank you, Helen. Can you say your first line again? I was a little distracted as that happened.
Detaching from the outcome, no expectations for the outcome. If I do this, then somebody else or the situation will change. It's surrendering to the possibility, accepting and surrendering to the possibility that whatever I do is for me, but it doesn't mean the situation will necessarily change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, feel free to call on people. I'll let you manage it. I don't know if you're looking at the chat at the same time. I'll let you know if there's anything in there. Somebody did say, forgiveness is letting go of resentment, blame, hurt, resulting from a painful experience. Not bearing resentment is a big key in forgiveness. Forgiveness is letting go of the hurt.
If I can ask you to help me do the chat, because it's hard for me to do two things at one time.
And detaching from the outcome. So you feel free if you'd like to call on the people whose hands are up in the room, and I'll let you know if there's something happening in the chat.
I think I should change my view to gallery so I can see. Yeah, okay. Okay, I see Aaron smiling. And so I know that he's ready to go. So what is forgiveness, Aaron?
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty large, deep thing. So as I was thinking about it, you know, there's I guess there's different parts to the process as we go deeper, because it's not only for you, but it's for whoever is involved with the situation, and make sure that all parts of the situation is cleansed and that there's healing for everybody. You know, so it's like the situation needs to be understood by all parties. Things need to be brought to peace. There needs to be healing for all parties. And all parties need to be at a place where they can serve each other, which is aloha. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like full forgiveness isn't there unless they can serve each other. They can be of service to each other. And yeah, so that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, Marina.
Aaron, he makes a tall order for forgiveness. That's not just your own, but for like really you're calling for sort of wall-to-wall healing of some sort. And so I've never really thought about it that way. I think I've come to think that forgiveness, for me to be in a place, my experience of forgiveness, not my definition maybe, but my experience of forgiveness is that it's not really available to me until I have made some meaningful meaning of my pain. Like I have to make some sense of my pain, and in a way that it has value, right? Where sort of there's a lesson, there's an insight from it. And it feels to me like even if I can't change the circumstance, I can't change what happened, I can't change anybody else's behavior or reaction or willingness to resolve things with me, that if I can make meaning of my pain in a way that makes me better prepared, more resilient, more loving, more aware, whatever that is, like it has to be a big, you know, it's almost like the lesson has to be big enough to compare to the size of the pain. So, you know, the bigger the thing that has to be forgiven, the bigger the story I have to tell myself about what I'm learning or understanding about it. So in some way there has to be some, I have to extract something for my growth to be able to resolve an unresolved hurt, to just let it go. I have known that. I don't know if that feels very forgiving, but I have found that in order, I can have all the desire. I think I heard somebody say this once, like a musician who said, like, you can't, you know, forgiveness, it's not something that, I don't know the method you're talking about, but it was, they said, it's not something you make happen, it's something that happens. And it happens when you have something I guess as I describe it, when you can make meaning of it enough for you that you can let go of what can't be done because you can hold on to something that does benefit you. I didn't explain it very well. I'm sorry it took so long to do it because I couldn't explain it well. But yeah, I was trying to describe the action around it, like the experience of trying to step into forgiveness to let it happen. So I'm curious, I'm guessing you're going to tell us something about how to do it.
Marina, you're exactly correct. It's hard to describe because it's not something tangible. Here it is. Here's forgiveness, Susan. Okay, take it now. Now you can go. It cost you $12.95. It's nothing like that. It doesn't come in a pill form either. But it's something that can last you for a lifetime. And Aaron was also, well, all of you were correct. And, let me just interject a little bit. And what Aaron said that triggered my mind was, it took so well in Hawaii because it has a lot of similarities. And I am by no means saying that I am any expert in Hawaiian, the culture itself, but it takes into the aloha spirit, coming from kindness, humility. And so for Dr. Luskin, Fred, he said, Susan, Hawaii is the first place that has really taken root into this project. And like I said, he's internationally known. And to this day, I'm still in contact with him because he is just so taken by what this community has done. Anyone else?
Jenny had her hand up, but I don't know if it's down again.
Oh, please, Jenny.
I put my hand up and I put my hand down and I typed something in the chat and then I took it out. You talk too much, Jenny, but I'll say something. I'll try to be quick. I'm working with forgiveness. It's important to me because I have chronic pain and trauma from childhood situations that I'm actually reading a book right now from Gabor Mate on how trauma can be the cause of later disease in life. And my family's still dysfunctional, but I would like for them to heal, but I can't heal them. I can only heal my relationship with them and be as healthy with them as I can be with myself. So for me, forgiveness is letting go of the resistance and grievance that clinging and closing off of my own heart so that love can flow through me, regardless of what's happening externally, because I recognize that everyone, when they're doing their actions, are doing it out of some sort of need that they're trying to fulfill. It may be a dysfunctional way to try to fulfill that need, but if I can recognize their basic goodness and that they're trying to fulfill a need, I can let go of my resistance to having love for them.
Thank you. And you made another great key point, is that we were all born with love and kindness. And the grief that comes in is because of our life experiences and how we deal with it. But we need grief in our lives. I mean, we can't go without. It's that part that comes from your reptilian part of your brain, that fight, flight, and freeze. That's for human survival. So it will always be there. It will always serve us. And in this instance, we're not saying, well, your stress is going to go away, but what we're trying to look at is to equalize it. They say 80% of our thoughts every day are more on the negative side, the judgy side. We judge people. We judge ourselves. And we don't mean to, but that's the reptilian part of our brain. And every time we do that, stress chemicals are formed and it feeds into our brain. And that's where the damage comes from, the heart. Now, to counteract that, we put in what I call the calm chemicals. And I don't know all the scientific words for it, but in order to get those calm chemicals into your body, you need to feel it in your belly. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, but we're looking to equalize it. So we need stress, but we need to have more equilibrium and choose forgiveness. Before I go into the steps, did anybody have any other comments? Yes, Deb.
Thank you for all of this. It's bringing up a lot of my own struggle over many years with forgiveness for different things. And one of the things that's been important to me in my learning around forgiveness is that forgiving does not mean that there isn't accountability for harms that were done. And, you know, I had a work colleague who was brutalized and then murdered many years ago. And it was really difficult to not harbor resentment towards a person who did that crime. And Karine had put in the chat a statement that really resonated with me because what did she say? Forgiveness is easier if we understand that the person who hurt us did so out of their own emotional injury or disability. And that was absolutely the case in the situation that happened to my friend. And even so, it was so hard to come to that place of understanding and letting go of resentment. And so I just wanted to throw that into the mix. It's not all light and love sometimes, at least not for me with forgiveness. It's a really hard, rocky path to get to that place of let go. And yeah, so I don't know if there's anything that you could share with us about your journey to help us in handling that hard part.
I sure can, you know, and if I'm an expert in anything, it's an expert in letting go of grief, because grief builds like plaque. The time when I had my stroke, I was physically healthy. I thought I had arrived. Right? Running the marathon at age 65. Wow, Susan, that's really good. Because I'm not an athletic person. Not at all. I didn't exercise. And then to achieve my black belt in this NIA thing, which is martial arts, dance arts, and healing arts, I'm not a dancer. I'm not a martial artist. But you know, when you put your mind to it, the wisdom that comes from in, the healing that comes from within is tremendous. So thank you. So let me start. Yes, Richard. Richard, you're on mute.
Thank you, Susan, for pointing that out. Yes. I was about to say that there's so much that people have said I'd like to respond to, but I'll keep my comments succinct here. Susan, you brought up the word judgment, and a favorite of mine is Anthony DeMello, and he's got a book called 1 Minute Wisdom. And there's just short snippets, and this one is called non-judgment. And what the disciple goes to the master and says, "How can I learn to forgive?" And the master says, "If you never condemn, you never need forgive." If you never judge, you never need forgive. And there's a lot of truth in that. What's really interesting, I teach what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And over the years, we spend a lot of time on watching our judgments. And people have, over time, often said the same thing, that when I watch my judgments of others, my relationships improve. And Marina was in one class and she said something that I thought was so insightful. She said, I notice when I judge somebody, I feel separate from them. And when I don't, I feel connected. And the light bulb went off in my head that that's true internally. When we sit inside, when we are sitting in ourselves and judging one side over the other, you know, we don't feel well. We're in conflict. Versus if we accept ourselves as we are and accept others. Now you brought up also about Hawaiian spirituality and aloha. And aloha means ultimately love, and that we're all connected. We're connected to the earth, the animals, the sky, the ocean. So I find through practicing non-judgment, it doesn't mean non-judgment of a behavior, but of the person. For years, I worked with abused children, and you read what the parents did to them, and then judgments would arise, and then you read the parents' history, and oh my God, it was like the judgments would leave, because then there's compassion for the parents too, and it's all about non-judgment. And again, it's not judging the behavior, but rather the person. And I learned that only the abused abuse. And it's out of hurt and pain that somebody abuses or hurts another. So I think non-judgment is critical in this process of working with forgiveness. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to tell you, you're exactly correct, you know, and I call myself, you know, a judgy person. So when they said, don't judge, you know, I started to count how many times I was judgy. I'm judgy a lot of the times. And so I thought, you know, how am I, when will I stop? Am I doing this practice correctly? And I can tell you that for me now, and I've only been doing this for 4 years, but it leaves you. It left me. And I'll say a little bit about that. When you see beauty in the world and in yourself, judgments start to go. And Deb was exactly right. Research does show that the person who may have what we call in this arena, the villain, whose behavior harmed me or others, 90% of the time, it wasn't personal, although it may have been, but it's their shortcomings, their insecurities that they're doing what they're doing. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the personal and impersonal side. And you are right, we are not condoning any illegal behavior, harmful behavior. It's nothing about that. If you still need to pursue justice, go ahead and do it. So let me start with my forgiveness story. And I'll get real personal, you know, but that's the only way I can teach it. Because unless I live it, I can't facilitate it. And you've got to live it and resolve it. So about 6 years ago, my husband came home and told me that he was having an affair. And he said, Susan, don't worry, because it was just an experiment. My response was first, and then, experiment? What do you think? Experiment? You know what you were doing. Don't give me this crap about experiment. And I exploded. Underneath that was all the betrayal. By that point, I was married for 30 years. And I didn't know how to let go. We lived with that together for 5 years thereafter. Last year, about a year ago, he left me. And today we're dear, dear friends. I can not tell you that I would have ever thought that. I mean, he left when I was taking my black belt training. I came down to find a note saying, Susan, this is not the retirement that I planned to be. Goodbye. And I thought to myself, wow. But this time, I went in one day from all that grief to start working on myself using my skills. I can tell you physically, I run about 2.5 miles every day still. I'm going to be 70 next week. And I had aches and pains and I thought, I needed a hip replacement. The day after he left, my pain was gone. Now I still get aches and pains, but I always figured, by the time you're my age, aches and pains are a natural part of life. But through my physical practice and the skills I have learned, I haven't forgotten, because you can never forget. Forgiveness never asks you to forget. Forgiveness is a gift. And this is the definition that I gave to myself. And what is that gift? It's the gift of health. And a lot of you said it. There's other things, what somebody else does, that we have no control over. There's some things that I do that I have no control over it. But understanding this and having a mindful practice is, for me, the answer to resilience. So let's start by saying that for the practice, forgiveness is a choice. It's a choice of response. And I never thought of choice being a response. I can think, when something happens that I don't want, I can get angry, I can feel nice, I can do this, I can do that. But nobody told me I had a choice. So forgiveness is a choice. And the choice is your gift to yourself of good health. And how you get good increased health, less pain, and the healing. And what that means is really a peace of mind inwardly. It's a state of being, is through these steps. And again, like I must say that it's not condoning poor behavior. My husband and I still divorced. Our divorce became final on September 22nd. Not that I'm counting 2021. That was, not even a month ago. But like I said, we're dear, dear friends now. And in fact, if it wasn't for him leaving, I wouldn't be where I am today. And he left over a year ago. Because living with myself, I knew what it was like. There was nobody to blame. It was way inside here. And the forgiveness starts here. And when I say it's like plaque, it's all the little things, not always the big things, the little things that add up. And so the steps are first recognizing what a grievance is. So we're not talking about complaints, although complaints do lead to grievances. So what is a grievance story? So Dr. Luskin defines it, there's three things that have to happen. First, an incident had to occur that I didn't want in life, that I didn't ask for, that didn't expect. And you need to be real specific about that incident. Because when you talk about relationships or anything like that, it doesn't happen all of a sudden one day. It could, but my relationship with my husband was building up for 30 years, right? But I can tell you exactly how I felt the day he came home and told me he was having an affair. So an incident had to occur, and you have to be real specific about that incident, because we're going to touch upon your feelings about that. And that's where the journey starts. It wasn't that one incident, but when Jenny and others talked about your childhood, everything that happened until then that my brain had stored about affairs, about behavior by men. And I'm not picking on men, I'm sorry, but in this instance I am, comes back to mind. And I can tell you, I suspected when I was younger, my father having an affair on my mother. I don't know. All I remember was seeing her sitting under the mango tree crying. I was in elementary school, I think. The second thing I remember was when my friends got married and they were being abused. They stuck in that marriage. No matter if their husbands were having affairs or was being physical, they stuck because they couldn't get out. When my sister's husband had an affair, I vowed to myself that, you know what? I was never going to be put into a position like that where I could not leave and get out of danger. But anyway, so the first thing is an incident. And to know that, like I said, the incident comes with all this other incidents. So the anger that I felt, I mean, I was really angry. Even for me, it was over the top. I was an administrator. I was teaching forgiveness and that kind of thing. But you know what? All of that came back all at one time. So you need to realize that. And you need to, and when I say you pick a day, it's because there's layers. There's layers to your grievance story. So after that first component, you need an incident. The second one is you label a villain and a victim. And I know those words are harsh, but Stanford had to use those harsh words so that everybody who was in the study understood what a villain and a victim was. Not the good person or the bad person, but, and you had to be, when you're in this training, you had to identify yourself as either a villain and a victim. Okay. In my incident, I was the victim. My ex-husband was the villain. But when I look at the whole situation, there was many times that I was the villain and what I did in return. But that's a second layer. So I have to leave that second layer. And the third thing that has to happen that forms a grievance is that it affects our activities of daily living. So what does that look like? The most common one is we think about it and we can't sleep. I should have done this, or wait till I get back, or, you know, why me, poor me, and I can't sleep. I go up to work the next day, and of course I put on my face, my happy face, because, you know, work is work. They say, you know, leave your problems at home, but, you know, my problems follow with me. And so you learn to be different at work. but it's still there. And so I know that for a fact, it was interfering in my daily life when I was feeling sad, when I go into staff meetings. It's not easy to hide sadness. I'm more quiet. I'm a little different person. So that's when you know you have a grievance. So it's different from a complaint. So let me tell you the complaint I have. You know, I have people, like I said, I'm a runner now because I love to eat. So I need to run. And what I didn't like was when I ran around my block, which is about 2.5 miles, when somebody was running on my sidewalk and they didn't get out of my way, and again, I'm sorry, I'm picking on men, I get irritated. I'm thinking, look at me, I'm this older lady and you're just running on my sidewalk. But of course, I'm not gonna say that. It's like, can't you see, can't you move? So I said, you know, Susan, take responsibility for yourself. Run at a different time, run a different place. So that's how I started running at 4 and 4:30 in the morning. So at times, that is an instant where that's a complaint. I didn't ruminate about it. I just was, you know, I didn't like people running on my sidewalk. So that's more of a complaint. A grievance is when I ruminated about it at night, but I didn't ruminate about people running on my sidewalk. So that's the first component that we do in the first session. In the first session, I talk about what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is a choice. It's a gift for me and not about forgiving the other person. Okay. The second point in my first session is finding a grievance story that we can work with. Because I said the skills are easy. So I think all of us in this room can identify an incident, can find the villain and the victim, and can understand what it is to ruminate about it too much so that it affects your other activities of daily living. And I brought the example of work, but it's working with your kids also, right? When you're not a happy person, chances are the people around you are not that happy either. We better stay out of mom's way today, right? And then the second class we talk about is the grief process. And that it is important that we grieve. You need to go to through the grief process. And the one that just, whatever that process is, whatever background that you have about what the grief process is. For me, in my age, Kubler-Ross was the, I guess, the queen of the grief process, you know, the one about the shock, denial, and all that. And then finally, it comes to acceptance. And we have to know whatever process it is, it's not linear. It doesn't happen step number 1 here, step number 2, you know, we compromise, step number 3, then we get angry and we get depressed, none of that. But it comes in different orders for different people, and it comes and it passes, and it might come back again and it comes back, but you need to go through the grief process. And one of the grief process, because when we go through grief, we feel powerless. That's the bottom line. So as part of the grief process, we talk about revenge fantasies. And that's about taking your power back and verbalizing it. So we do not expound, well, let's talk about your grief, your revenge fantasies. But we talk about it from the standpoint of, we're just trying to get our power back. In my story, I was shamed. I was humiliated. I was an administrator. I was a mental health counselor. Then how come then, Susan, you couldn't even have a successful marriage, right? Shame. Didn't want to talk about it. Feeling less than. Knowing in myself, telling myself, no, Susan, you're an educated woman. You have this and you do this. You've got 2 wonderful children, which is really, really true. I should have been focusing more on that than grieving my story. But that's the second step, the revenge fantasies. Acknowledging them, and it's just a way of getting your power back. And I'm covering this really lightly. I think the local people, we always, what the revenge fantasy usually is, karma will get them. What comes around goes around, right? But we always got to remember that there are good revenge fantasies. And the best revenge fantasies is, boy, I'm going to get a better life. I'm not going to let this down, and I'm going to get a better life. I'm going to move on. The third class is about stress reduction, mindfulness. And Jimmy had showed me many different ways of mindfulness, meditation. Everybody does it differently. But the key is finding calmness when chaos is happening all around. So at this point, I'd like to stop talking a little bit. And just by a show of hands, how many of you have a mindful practice? And all of our mindful practices, I'm sure, looks different, but the same. I'll be truthful with you at the beginning, of this practice. And I got my training from Dr. Tao Le from the University of Hawaii. I resisted it. I was thinking, I ain't sitting in no corner on no cushion. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time to do that. And right? I mean, that's the kind of mentality I had. And I resisted it for 2.5 months. And then, see, after the training, she said, we're going to come back in 3 months and we're going to ask you about your mindful practices. And I was too proud to say I wouldn't have a practice. So I started. And I started by finding a place and a location. And I sat there and I really didn't know what belly breathing was. But I'm glad to see everybody has a mindful practice. And today my mindful practice, and I'm proud to say, and I never really thought about it, it's about 1 hour to 2 hours a day in the morning. And I don't even think as a mindful practice, it's a way to start my day. So along with that mindful practice, we teach impersonal, personal and impersonal. The grievance that you may have, there's a personal side and an impersonal side. Okay, so the personal side is it happened to us. It did. I thought that was the only side that there was, because poor me, look what happened. He cheated on me. The impersonal side is what many of you said. What was going through his mind as he told me, I still love you? And I'm thinking, what crazy person is that? But research shows 80 to 90% of the time, it's really not about you, Susan. Please, Dr. Luskin said, Susan, the world does not revolve around you. It's the impersonal side to it. If it's true, and if you believe, which I really do, that we're all born with love and kindness, it's our experiences that in the culture here we have is what we call the bowl of light. When we're born, we have a bowl and it's full with bright light. That's all our love and kindness. And our experiences, every time we have a negative experiences, the stone goes into our bowl And until our bowl is full of stones, unless we put some, take the stones out and shine the light again, we're stuck in this grievance process. We see only what we've lost. We see how we have been hurt. But when you see the impersonal side, it didn't make me feel, well, let me see. It made me feel a little less stress. But at that point, that impersonal side, one, I never listened to my husband. I was just always yelling, never listening, never seeing the hurt inside. He tried, and he went to a therapist at that point. And men, a lot of men do not go to therapists. They don't believe in therapy and all that, but he went. And he found that he had hidden a childhood trauma and had been struggling for years with that. Never really told me about that. The only suspect that I had that something happened was he told me that my mother told me that I need to watch my temper. He never said anything more. And at the beginning, I was thinking, you know, I wonder if I should marry this man. I mean, if he's got this temper that he's hiding, I don't want to see it. But we got married and I've never seen that temper. But anyway, there was another side to it. That's why he said, Susan, it's nothing about you. And I am so truly sorry for what I've done. So seeing the other side, my stress began to understand, not forget what happened, not condoning for what he did, because it didn't involve only me. It involved my children. It involved the other woman. So there was many layers to this. It wasn't only two. So we learned to look at the personal and impersonal side. And again, I went kicking and screaming, thinking, I thought it meant the impersonal side was, Susan, don't worry about it. 50% of the marriages fail today and 50% of the men have affairs. So you know what? Don't sweat the small stuff. But it doesn't mean that. It means looking at the other side and seeing the beauty in life. You're forgetting, Susan, to be grateful for what you've got. It's not me, me, me. So that's the third session. The fourth session is what he calls, what the Dr. Luskin calls unenforceable rules, and how many of them we have. So my unenforceable rule in my story was, you know, when you said those vows through thick and thin, when you said you were going to be faithful, how dare you? How dare you do what you did? Okay, I had that unenforceable rule. So this is what I expected out of this marriage, and this is what I got. This is what I wanted, and this is what I got. The space between in between is what the grief process is. But I never looked at myself. Susan, you're accusing your husband, now ex-husband, that you know what, that he didn't stick through thick and thin. He went out and had this affair. Well, Susan, now that you know that what he was going through, did you stick through thick and thin? Did you think to listen? No. And so when we look at unenforceable rules, I just kind of want to lighten it up a bit. It really is, we've got so many of them. For me, one of the unenforceable rules was, everybody reads the sign. So when you go to the supermarket and it says only 10 items or less, you never go into that line that says, and you have 15 items. Right? And of course, I don't say anything, but I think inside, can't she count? Can't she? What do you think? And these are the unenforceable rules. Even laws are unenforceable. Speed limit. Yeah, we know it's a rule, but how many of us has gone over the speed limit and under the speed limit? I mean, I got stopped by a police officer for going under the speed limit. Can you imagine that? I was driving a Ford Bel Air back at those days. But even those things are unenforceable rules. And when you start to look at how many we have, and every time you have these unenforceable rules, those stress chemicals are pouring into your body. There's so many of them, and a lot of them are laughable. My unenforceable rules are, men always put down the seat, toilet. Don't they know? You put it down. People should, when you put the toilet paper on, make it so that the outside comes down first, not the inside. If I'm going to be late, you know what? Please don't be late. But do I tell myself that when I'm late? So these are the things. When I get up in the morning, I expect my toothpaste to be there and the cap to be on. Hey, Susan, the world doesn't revolve around you. So all these little things start to build. So it's not only the big grievances, but all these little unenforceable rules that we have. So take a look at them, because many of the unenforceable rules research shows that we have are the ones that we ourselves do. So that's a big one. And so please take the time after this, and Carolyn will know, and she talks about it. And now our family discussions are unenforceable rules. That's an unenforceable rule. That's an unenforceable rule. It's so nice if your food is still hot when you come home, but it's not. So that's the fourth. The fifth component, and for me was the hardest, is self-forgiveness. And first I thought, so what am I forgiving myself for? I did nothing wrong. There's many meaning, it's acceptance, and it's really forgiving yourself in this arena for holding the grievance so long, so that your heart, the people around you, were affected by the grief that you carried within. And you knew up here that you were born, and you tell people you were born with love and kindness, and that, you shouldn't judge other people. But yet, Susan, you do it inside. It's hard to look inside. For me, it was hard because the fear of what I would discover. So let me talk a little bit about, so then I'm doing this practice. I come to the self forgiveness part, and I'm thinking, okay, I passed the stress reduction, the mindfulness. So when am I going to arrive, right? How do I know that I got there? And I waited, and I'm thinking, I don't know. But one day, let me back up one, because I call it neuroplasticity of the brain, because it takes me a long time to sit and ponder every time. Okay, Susan, now breathe, right? One day when I was running at 4:30 in the morning, I saw this man. And of course, I'm sorry, again, I'm picking on men, but it happened to be a man with a shopping cart coming down my sidewalk. And he looked at me coming up the sidewalk and he says, I'm so sorry that I'm in your way. And he was trying to push the cart on the side. And I said, you've got nothing to be sorry about. This sidewalk is just as much yours as mine. And he looked at me and he said, oh, thank you. Oh, you just have a wonderful day. I ran past and I thought, who said that? I don't use that language. And then I knew. Neuroplasticity of the brain, the stress reduction by changing. And in this practice, which I didn't cover, it's called PERT, and we will cover that at the end, positive emotion reinforcing technique. It's not new. It's behavioral cognitive therapy. And it's just switching your mind, because I have a choice at that point, either to be frustrated at that man and not doing anything about it, or changing my outlook on it, seeing the bigger picture. Susan, this is not your sidewalk. It's his. You can get out of the way. Wow, what a revelation that I can get out of the way, right? But that's how it started. It started, and once you see it, you start to see it all the time. And I'll give you another example. And it comes, and it makes me not be judgy. I'm not that judgy. And Jimmy brought that up because I was telling him as we were going to the studio, I see it all the time. I see it every day now. And one of the other things, because Jimmy sees it, and I'm sure all of you see it. He was talking about it all the time. And I was thinking, and I didn't tell him, but boy, it's really nice to talk to an old man that, you know, sees things like this, talks my language. And in fact, in the interview in Olelo, I almost lost it, and I think I did, because he called it airy fairy. And that is because when you tell people what you see, the beauty around you, then some people kind of look at me like this. But you know what it looks like for me? So the other day, there was a lot of, it rained here in Aiea, and I run every day, like I said. And then I saw puddles. I saw puddles, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, puddles. My mind switched and said, hey, Susan, your shoes are dirty. Just run in the puddles and it'll clean your shoes. I ran in the puddles. I had a great time. And I thought to myself, well, where did that come from? But that's what I see. It seems so different. And that's, Richard, when I start realizing that I'm starting to stop judging. It gave me really insight until how that happens. It's like they say, it's any bad habit that I have, I can create good habits. And that's really what they call neuroplasticity of the brain. It's by switching your response and creating a new brain pattern when you receive stress. It's like the serenity prayer. They tell you the same thing, you know, have the wisdom to know what you can control and what you can't control. So these are nothing new. But Stanford has put it into this pattern. And the last class is we call the forgiveness story. It's the same grievance story, but instead of looking backwards, it looks forward. And this was my real answer that physical medicine couldn't do for me. Because when I was in the emergency room with my stroke, the doctor, the physician told me that day, Susan, you're healthy. Just lower your stress. And as an administrator, you know, acting administrator, you know you have so much stress. You've got a lot of things to do. So I asked him, so how do I do that? because my high blood pressure medication and all my running and all my martial arts and whatever I do didn't help that. And he walked away from me. Now, he wasn't dismissive in any way, but they don't know. He didn't know how to do that. So the forgiveness story is very, very important. So what is the forgiveness story? And we call it the forgiveness story. It's my plan of action. I can either choose to stay in my grief process or choose to move forward. But you got to have a plan. And a plan that is workable and doable, okay? So some people plan to drink, or every time I feel grief, you know what, I'm gonna drink. Or maybe I'm gonna take drugs. For me, I eat. I'm gonna watch TV. I'm gonna keep myself busy. I'm gonna get black belt. I'm gonna do this. But my plan now, if I wanted health, and if I understood that if I put the good chemicals into my body, then I would restore my heart health. So how was I gonna do that? And that was what you all know and you all practice. Mindfulness, positive emotion reinforcing technique. So now, please take a comfortable position, seat. You can lie down if you want. Let me walk through the PERT process. It's just like mindfulness with a little difference. So take a comfortable position with your back straight and let your arms and hands gently rest on your lap or on your side. Close your eyes and bring a smile to your face. Did you know that when you smile, the muscles that are used help calm your forehead, your eyes, and your mouth? You have nothing to do but just smile. Now relax your shoulders. You can stretch them forward and backwards if you want to. Then your ribs. Move down to your stomach where you belly breathe. To your hips, to your thighs. And if possible, plant your feet firmly on the ground. Now put your hands on your belly and bring your attention fully to your stomach. As you slowly draw in and out 2 deep breaths, notice that as you inhale, your belly slowly pushes out. As you exhale, consciously relax your belly and push your belly in. Continue breathing this way for about 3 to 5 slow, deep breaths. Now, notice when you're feeling the effects in your mind and or your body of an unresolved interpersonal grievance or ongoing relationship problem, then I want you to bring to your mind's eye an image of an experience that brings you peace and awe and wonder, or the feeling of a pet and their unconditional love they show to you when you come home, or a beautiful scene in nature that just takes your breath away. Hold this positive and loving feeling that emerged in the area around your heart. Now place your hands on your heart. Remember that loving feeling. What is it like? Take 2 or 3 more breaths. Now ask this positive emotion voice of yours if it can suggest to you a way to remain peaceful when you think about this interpersonal hurt. That you were born with love and kindness in your heart, that you still have these qualities. What can you do to remain calm when your grievance arrives? Take 2 or 3 deep breaths. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Now, this practice has helped me a lot. I knew to be mindful, but the thoughts kept coming. The thoughts will come. But if you made this shift, when it comes, let it come, and then bring that loving feeling into your body. Whatever that is. For me, it's my dog. When I see her down on her belly going, ah, ah, I know, because a dog or any pet doesn't do that unless they feel safe. And the reason why it's so important that you belly breathe is because if that feeling does not reach your stomach, it does not shoot the chemicals back up into your brain to register calmness. So that's the importance of belly breathing. And as I did this, my mind now, instead of feeling so much of that grief and pain, I can feel that loving feeling. I see nature very differently now. And Richard, that's the awakening I had. You know, when I started to do this, then I start not to judge myself or other people. I was so busy belly breathing and, you know, trying to, move forward. And, that's how I kind of tame that part. Because me telling myself, uh-oh, you're judgy again. Stop being judgy. You know you shouldn't be judging. Didn't work. But it's this positive focusing of the response you get when you have that grievance story. When you know what you're going to do. So my plan first in my forgiveness story was to really get mindfulness down pat, whatever that looked like for me. So I started with some calm apps. and I started dancing. And that Nia that Jimmy talks about, that I got my black belt in. And I'm not a dancer, I'm not a singer, I'm not any of those, but it's an, I'm going to end, I guess, by this story. Okay, so Carolyn bought me this 12-pack, 20-pack coupons for the Still and Moving Center. And she says, Susan, you know what? We're going to take aerial yoga. So I said, oh, okay. Oh God, that sounds really fun. Okay, so we went to the first lesson. And I got motion sickness. I was off the ground only this much. I was just leaning back, but being an older lady, you know, it just joggled my mind. And I thought, oh, I'm never going to do this again. But then I thought, I got 19 more classes. So I wandered around and I went into this room and there was these people rolling around on the floor, these women rolling around on the floor and doing all these things. And I thought, I can do that. So I joined that class. And I thought, I love it because there's no teacher telling me what to do except, Susan, when you feel pain, you're doing it wrong. If you don't feel pain, you're doing it correctly. So I thought, oh, I could do that. And so after class, I felt so wonderful. So the other feeling I had was, oh, I feel like I was in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? Because everybody was doing it differently. Everybody was smiling, but that's a practice of Nia. And Nia is a nine-movement form, so it's made up of 3 martial arts: Tai Chi, Taekwondo, and Aikido, dance arts, Duncan dance, healing arts, Duncan dance, modern dance, and jazz dance, and the healing arts, yoga, Feldenkrais, and the Alexander technique. And as I went through this process, I met a lot of athletes along the way. I shouldn't say athletes. 3 really ones that I had the nerve to ask, what are you doing in this class, right? One was a professional mountain climber, and he said, Susan, I'm taking this class because I climb mountains and gone to the Appalachian trails by myself. If I get injured, there's no one there to help me. So I need to know how to move in my body's way to be efficient. The second person I met, I said, so why are you in this class? Because they were all kind of built like and everything else. And I think, and he said, I'm a golfer. And he said, I golf professionally, but you know, I just need to tweak. I know what to do, but I need to tweak my inner muscles a little bit. Not change it, but I need to train my inner muscles. And that's what Feldenkrais does. And the third person that I met, she actually qualified for those mogul thingies, you know, in the Olympics. And so I said, so why are you in this class? And she said, it's for the visualization. Because when you're competing, you're not thinking anymore about what your body does, but you're visualizing what it does to take you to get to the end. And so the visualization and awareness helps me through this process. So I met these 3 people, but then I also talk about LeBron James because he's in the Calm app. I use one of the apps sometimes. And LeBron James said, and I didn't know who LeBron James was at the beginning. So I was telling people about what this man told me because you don't know who LeBron James is? I said, no, not really. But he was talking about how mindfulness, focus, and staying calm when the big game arose. And I know now he plays basketball, and I don't know what big game he was talking about, but they were trailing by 1. But he said, I know every time I shoot, and when I'm in that situation, everything around me, all the crowd, I don't hear them anymore. I come to the present where I am. My focus is not on how my body moves. It's that basket. That's all I see. And he said, I made the winning point. And so he was so happy. So I'm so happy for him. But let me be clear, I don't know him. He was in the Calm app. But that's what mindfulness. So all of you, my hat's off to all of you who have this practice, because that's it. That's the skills. Everything else I've been talking about is what you know, but it's putting it together and sharing it in a group, because I learned from the group. And it's a process that I do to this day. And it works for me. And that's why I say, I only know Jimmy for 3 weeks. And honestly, Jimmy can attest to this. I don't know this man from anything. I got to ride in his beautiful blue truck down to the studios, but what a terrific man. And in 3 weeks' time, I also met this other lady. Her name is Robin Rohr, all through this Merchant Chenin man. And he introduced me to Jimmy and to Robin. In 3 weeks, I can tell you, Robin Rohr is a writer. I always wanted to be a writer. She helped me write my story, what I just told you, in a very professional way. In fact, she told me, well, Susan, do you know a writer that can help you write your story? And I said, no. Then I told her, but I'm a writer. I can be. My story will now be featured in Midweek on December the 22nd. It's going to be the Christmas story for Midweek. So look for it. So that was my first miracle. Second miracle and third miracle is Jimmy. Because then Jimmy said to me, oh, Susan, you want to be on Olelo? And I'm thinking, gosh, I always wanted to kind of be an actress. I'm a drama queen in a lot of ways. And look, now I'm an author, and now I'm going to be an actress. And I thought to myself, boy, all in 3 weeks this started happening. And so, but I'm scared to watch that part because, like I said, I lost part of it. And the third thing is I got to meet all of you. I got to tell my story all over again. And I've got to meet and hear from all of you in different ways. And that is the greatest gift that I have, because I've learned a lot from all of you today and what your thinking is and what your dedication and commitment that you've made to this practice.
Thank you, Susan. This
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for
Riveting,
sharing this.
riveting sharing. I know that we're really
It
up
continues.
to we're up to the top of the hour. So I just
any questions?
Yeah, we only have a couple of minutes, but I wanted to see if there's anybody. I know, Roger, you've had your hand up for a long time. Do you still have something you wanted to jump in here and say? And as we wrap up, any last comments?
Maureen, I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
I'm not.
Oh.
Can you all hear me? You can't hear me,
Here,
Susan?
Marina, this is Arlene.
Okay.
And Marina was just saying that Roger has patiently had his hand up for a while, hopefully with a question. So maybe Roger can go ahead and ask his question.
Actually, I had my hand up from the time that Susan asked, do you have a meditation practice?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I just have one comment. I thought that was a tremendous presentation. And there are other ways to reach that place of forgiveness that Susan's talking about. When we did the Forgiveness Project, we found a number of different physical processes, mantras you can say. So there's a whole way to find yourself in a state of forgiveness once you understand, as Susan so aptly demonstrated, you recognize you're in a place that needs forgiveness. And I just encourage everybody, mindfulness is the basis of it. That's what I experienced after hosting the Hawaii Forgiveness Project for 20 years. And we can just do so much for ourselves and each other if we find the practice that's right for us and move forward with it. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Roger. I wanted to mention to folks that there's some resources and things in the chat, if you haven't been looking, that might be helpful. And if you go to the chat and click on the 3 buttons, it'll let you save the chat if the information that was captured in there, you'd like to have your own copy of it. So you might want to do that before we shut down the meeting. Any other comments? And then we'll close it with Jimmy, but any other something you're leaving here with or thoughts? Helen puts a heart up. That's sweet. Thank you. Lots of thank yous in the chat too.
Well, this is Arlene. I just wanted to also thank Susan. It was a very heartfelt presentation, and I appreciate her coming and sharing her story and her path with us today.
Really. So Jimmy, do you want to close for us?
Yeah. I'll just say a few words. First, let me just say thank you to Susan. It was a great job. I enjoyed chatting with you for the last, during our ride to the studio. I enjoyed our chat. And you've also had an impact on my head and my heart, I guess. I'm sure we will have more conversations in the future. But let me very quickly say that our newsletter will be out in December, right, Melanie? So be looking for that. And then our Olelo show for December will begin showing on the first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. on Channel 53. And our guest for that show is Helen Stewart, our intuitive friend. So be looking for that. And thereafter, the first showing, it'll show every Wednesday in the month of December on Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Okay, so if you miss it, you can catch it back then. And the other thing that I wanted to say was I hope you folks all have a great Thanksgiving and also a great holiday. And then we will not have a community meeting in December, but I will put another notice out again in December, reminding everybody that we will not be meeting. But in the meantime, we're all open to communicate with each other, so be free to reach out and talk story. And we'll see you on the path, the mindful path, if you will. Okay? Aloha.
Everybody take off your microphones and let's just all say goodbye to each other. You can open up your...
Aloha, mahalo.
Thank you, Susan.
All right.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Bye-bye.
Marina, Arlene.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Aloha.
Thank you, Marina.
Bye-bye.
Susan.
Thank you.
Aloha.
See y'all.